Uh, what I have so far is I've started off.
Join Gator great Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
In the morning, Joe Montana out. That's okay. Steve Young, and I guess that would make JC what? Jerry Rice, Roger Craig in here on this Monday. Draft week is here. It's the final week of April, so we got a lot to get to and a lot to iron out over the course of the next 60 minutes. Of course, JC and myself, courtesy of what? Courtesy of a couple of things. First of all, courtesy of Titan MRI and the Titan MRI hotline. Also, Meldon Law, Facebook Live. You got a question for JC? You got a question for myself? Fire away via Meldon Law's Facebook Live comment section. Meldon Law, the only official legal law firm partner of the Florida Gators. All right, JC. Here's what we are. Golf champions.
Yeah.
They're back on top. We got a couple of Gator football players in the transfer portal, what that means, and, of course, Sweep City. As baseball gets swept and softball drops the first two of their series with Tennessee. They'll play the final game of that tonight. Boy, softball, the ugly one, too, that blew a 6-run lead. Where should we start? I'll let you where do you want to begin?
Well, let's start with the positive, Seth. Obviously, you win your 16th SEC championship, first time in 12 years. The men's golf team went to St. Simon's Island and beat the number one team in the country, Vanderbilt, straight up. And, listen, I think for a team like Florida's golf team, which has been kind of away, J.C. Deacon needed this as coach. And this is their first SEC championship, as I said, in 12 years, dude. That's a pretty long time for a school like this, and I'm very happy for him. John Du Bois was great on that last match, beating his opponent from Vanderbilt there, and I think making a long putt off the green there on I think it was hole number 16. Point is that this sets them up very nicely for the NCAA tournament, and this gets Florida a different spring sport championship. I've been blabbering about the baseball team and how great they are. I think this weekend in South Carolina kind of brought them back to earth a little bit. And so hopefully they'll be able to recover. That was hard, dude. That 3 straight, and they weren't even close. It was awful.
It's funny because sports at the end of the day, like it or not, especially baseball, are about numbers. It is a statistically driven game. Now, your athletes need to perform, but it is a statistically driven game. Here's what's interesting. Crack the numbers for you. Over the course of what ended up being 25 innings, right? Because they got run ruled on Thursday night.
Yeah, that was awful.
Gator pitchers walked 24 Gamecock hitters.
Dang.
South Carolina walked 10 Gator hitters. So you go and you do the math on something like this. Gator, South Carolina pitching only walked a little over 3 Gator hitters per game, where Florida's out there walking 8. And what's interesting about this, of those 24 runs, 12 of them, or 24 walks, 12 of them scored. 12 of those 24 scored.
Yeah.
Considering JC, Florida only scored 10 runs all weekend.
Right.
When South Carolina scores more runs off Gator pitchers and pass bar base on balls. Look, it's one of these things that at this stage of the game, what do we always say? Great pitching usually beats great hitting. But when you're a great hitting team and I'm going to give you 24 free passes, let's face it, Florida baseball was a scarecrow playing with fire. And this weekend, the conditions were right, and they finally got burned.
I think, Seth, Georgia showed other schools one formula for neutralizing the offense. Georgia came in with a lot of off-speed stuff. They were picking at corners. They were changing speeds. I don't know. Florida should be able to adjust to that. They did in the third game of that Georgia series, but in those first two games against Georgia back here a couple of weeks ago, they could not hit. These pitching coaches are not dumb. They will watch tape, they will watch film, and they will pick apart the Florida hitters. Florida's hitting has to adjust to the different types of pitching they're going to see and the better pitching they're going to see going forward. And the off-speed stuff, a certain team can hit fastballs all day long, but you start breaking you start hitting some of those spinners, or you start missing some of those spinners, and that's what they're going to start seeing. So they got to get better at that. And, when it's 3-3 in the sixth or seventh inning of that first game on Thursday night, to completely get run ruled in the latter three innings I think it surprised us all. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I keep over the course of the whole weekend, I heard this. Well, we had Neely. If Neely were here. And he's late stages, right? Every single one of these games, your starters. Sprout had the best outing of anybody, giving up 4 earned runs in 5 2/3. Walter finally they finally got to him. In 6 innings, he gives up 5 earned runs, and Kaggs gives up 4 earned runs in 3 innings. So, we mentioned Neely. If Neely would have been in there, you're still down 7-3 by the time he comes in the game. You're still down 5-2. Waldrop had given up those 5 earned runs in the first 4 innings. And then, of course, Kaggs gives up 4 earned runs. So would he have had an impact? Yeah, maybe for an inning or two. But the problem this weekend, again, it's like a broken record. Gators pitchers walked 24 Gamecock hitters. It led to 12 runs. Florida scored 2 runs the whole weekend. And South Carolina's starting pitching staff, did enough. I mean, we go through the numbers here again, JC. Gamecock starting pitching gave up 7 runs. 7 runs in 3 games. I mean,
there you go.
It struggled. This didn't. So you get swept. What this does, and this is and I know we still have 4 series left. What this does, JC, is I think this ends the dream of the SEC East. There were only 2 games back going into the weekend. They're 5 games back now. They'd have to sweep Vanderbilt. When you get into it's not even May yet, JC, and you're saying, well, we've got to sweep this team to win. Yeah. It's over.
Seth, you're right about the SEC East. What I think of the SEC is secondary to what I think the importance of the regional and super regional playoff rounds are. And obviously winning the SEC would be cool, but does the SEC champion care if he loses in a regional or super regional? Baseball is that way. The goal is to get to Omaha. You can have your conference rings and all this, but that doesn't get you anything in baseball. It's about getting to a regional, being seeded well, having the advantage of home field, and winning that to be one of the top 8 seeds. Florida needs to be one of the top 8 seeds when this is all said and done. You can have the SEC East, West, Central. You have to be a top 8 seed, Seth, because then you are guaranteed that as long as you win on your home field, that is the way to Omaha. Omaha is what matters to me. I'm not as worried about the conference. The conference is great. There's going to be 7, 8, 9, 10 teams going to regionals out of the SEC. That's what matters to me. Yeah, and they probably would be. Yeah, I mean, maybe Auburn or Alabama travel, but most of these SEC schools will be hosting. The top 8 seeds in baseball will host super regionals if they get through their regionals. So that's, to me, the primary concern. This thing in South Carolina was bad, but it's not me. It doesn't define their season whatsoever, as far as I'm concerned.
And it goes to show you, if you want to win your division in this conference, you can't afford to get swept. You can't.
Well, no, you can't. You can't.
So that's you can lose series, and this is the first series Florida's lost
all
year.
That's right.
But when you lose it to a team that you are tied with going into the weekend,
you're going to be
3 games behind them, and plus there's only 4 series left. The good news is for Florida is that you have the Ospreys, UNF, and you have Mizzou coming up this week.
Yeah.
So, JC, if there was an elixir to get back on track, it's these 4 games coming up.
Yeah.
And look, in realistically, this team should go at least 3-1 this week, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. And I again, you have to have a short memory, right? You can't just dwell on what happened in Columbia. You may see them again in the SEC tournament in Birmingham. Great, wonderful. But I always consider that secondary to where you're seated in the postseason, because that's going to define your season. That will define your season. If Florida, let's say, Seth, let me ask you a question. If Florida somehow won the SEC championship in Birmingham and lost in their regional, would that be a successful definition of a season for this team?
Oh, this team's expectations, let's face it,
has to be higher than that.
Yeah, I think super regional. Now, look, if you get to a super regional and you lose 2-1, win 3-2, then lose 2-1, we can be realistic about this. You know, you can be a 1 seed and lose in the Elite Eight in basketball and lose to a 2 seed, and it's not what you want, but it's acceptable. If this team doesn't make it out of their regional, you may be talking about one of the more disappointing.
Yes.
The COVID year was disappointing because they didn't meet expectations. If you don't make it to at least a super regional this year, it would be disappointing, not because you didn't live up to expectations. It's because you failed to execute, which is something totally different, right?
I just really, I'm not going to push the panic button yet, but no. I did see something that Georgia did that kind of I didn't see all year, and that was quiet the Florida offense. Florida's offense has been great this year, but then Georgia came in here with guys who were pitching that I wouldn't consider, necessarily at the top of their top of the conference, and they shut them down in those first 2 games. And I know these pitching coaches will see this. They watch film every single day, and they know how to attack a team that's dependent highly on offense. And so Florida's going to have to adjust. Simple as that. And they will. I think they will. I think they're good enough to. They've got great players.
Yep, did it at least in the middle of the season, or middle to end. So got a whole month to get things back on track.
That's right.
Yeah. Seth Harp, JC, in for Shane Matthews today. Podup with Matthews in the morning as the QB is traveling, making his way back. He'll be back full stop, full scale tomorrow. Of course, Podup with Matthews in the morning. Brought to you in part by Chris Doring Mortgage. They do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Give Chris Mortgage. For your mortgage, give Chris Doring. You can tell that the coffee hasn't completely kicked in yet. 352-244-0840. That's 352-244-0840. Tony writing in, Georgia just swept Arkansas. Yeah, they did. We aren't going to play at Founders Park the rest of the season.
No.
I don't yet know. But, gang, here's the thing. This team, as a rotation, you had 3 guys coming into this weekend that were combined, what were they, 15-3, something like this. But their ERAs are all at 5. And you've been you've been out slugging teams 11-7, 15-9, and you can get away with that. Cal State Fullerton won a College World Series doing that once. But if you run into a team with good pitching, and it doesn't matter where they play, I got news for you. If you walk 24 of them, and 12 of them score, and you only score 10 runs all weekend, you can play in Yosemite, and it won't win. Yeah, so there you go. Anyway, but there's the front with baseball. They get back on track. Of course, you'll be able to hear that Tuesday night as they take on UNF on ESPN 98.1 FM 850 AM WRUF softball. Good thing we started with golf and their success, because softball comes out the one Saturday night. Those things happen, but when you have, what was it, a 5-run lead, 6-run lead,
you gotta shut that down.
Close it down. I wrote down, you blow a 6-run lead. This team is now below 500 in the SEC. Well, what's tonight? Tonight is this, with 2 SEC series left. A loss tonight, I don't see any way Florida finishes above 500 in softball in the SEC, JC. That's what's at stake. What say you?
I say you're right. It's just been disappointing. Shannon and I were talking about this 2 months ago, how this team was a top 5, top 3 type team. They're not. And I know Tim's disappointed. He doesn't like what's happening. And this is not what they're accustomed to. I mean, you look at Tim Walton's winning percentage as just a coach on the University of Florida payroll. It's as gaudy and as good as any coach who's ever been here, including Spurrier. It is unbelievable how much winning Tim Walton has seen with his softball program. And I'm sure this is just breaking his heart right now with the way it's playing out. pitching is, as you said, that's the key. And at this time of year, if you don't get that response from your pitchers, you're not going to win. It's just that simple.
Tennessee showed you what a top 5 team does.
Yeah.
And the fact that, everybody else that Florida's played this year, with the exception of that West Coast trip, Florida up 8-3 or whatever they were up, game over. In the 6th inning, that thing's over. But Tennessee's top 5 team. They grind. And now look, do I think Tennessee is up there with the UCLA's? I don't know. It shows you that Florida can compete on any given Sunday, we say in the NFL, right? On any given night with softball, they get into the right, seam and they can compete. The problem is finishing the drill. They almost seem like they almost seem like a prize fighter, JC, that can go 5 or 6 rounds, but to go 10 rounds, that's a little bit different beast. And that to me is where softball's a fighter that can win like 5 or 6 rounds, like an aged fighter. But if they don't get you, then you get to the 7th, 8th, and 9th, and 10th round, the other guy's going to point you. And
it's the old fat dog around the last turn at the racetrack. Just runs out of gas, man. That 80-pounder, you got him on the first turn, you got him on the back, and then he starts to pucker down on the last turn, and you lose your Quinella bet. Listen, it's Oklahoma's world in softball. Let's just
yes.
I mean, that's, to me, when you've got somebody that dominant, we're all just talking about second place. I just don't see it. There's something, and every year Patty Gasso just reloads it, and they just keep firing. I don't know. They're going to be an SEC school next year, Seth. So we're going to actually maybe even get to see them to come down here. You never know. But we're going to see a lot more of them, and I don't know if that's a good thing because right now it is their world. It's just their world.
It's funny because I saw a chart last week, and forgive me, I can't remember where I saw it, but it was like with the addition of Texas and South Carolina, what that means to schools that won championships with the addition of Texas and Oklahoma. And it's absolutely hilarious because, like, look at this SEC power. It's like, well, they're not there yet. You can't count their championships yet, gang. But what it shows you is how dominant those two programs. I mean, you're talking of 2 of the 7 or 8 most winning universities in terms of championships in all of college sports.
Yeah. Well, it's great. It's great for us, man. I mean, we get to see, Seth, I'm fired up about after this season going to 9 games, playing SEC football against teams that traditionally are so good year in, year out, or at least have that name brand recognition, and not having to deal with. I mean, I just looked at the Florida football schedule this year, and they're talking about season tickets. There's 3 games that I would even consider watching. You've got Florida State, you've got Tennessee, and you've got Arkansas. The rest of it, what is it? Charlotte, McNeese State. These are not games that I want to pay for. And nobody wants to. And I know Shane's over here blabbing about, well, it gives those kids a chance to play at Florida. Great. But that's not what coming out of my wallet. I'm not subsidizing that. I don't want to do that. I want to watch Oklahoma. I mean, I looked at Florida's schedule potentially in 24, Seth. I'm not going to bring it up because all it's going to do is depress people. So we're not going to talk about it. But unless they get better, like fast, it's going to be ugly.
Well, and it's funny about this because I've always said this too. At the end of the day, it's a consumer sport.
Yeah.
And, ticket prices have gone up. That's fine. It's a cost of doing business. However, the product that I'm consuming, it needs to be good. And I give Florida fans credit for this because Nebraska fans, I spent some time when I worked out in Lincoln, and they wore their consecutive sellout streak around. They wore that around like it was Superman's cape. Like, do you realize we've sold out a game for 40 years? I said, that means your fan base are a bunch of lunatics because there has to be at some point where you go, that product is garbage. I'm not buying it.
I'm not watching it. Yeah.
And I know this, and I get it. The mantra, the mindset, and all kinds of weather. I get it. But I said this last week. If there's a hurricane, I ain't going outside. If there's a tornado, I'm not driving. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm not shelling out $60 to watch you skull drag McNeese State. So I'd like to get rid of all that garbage. And JC, it's not back there. I went to a MAC school. I played at a MAC school, Western Michigan. my conference benefits from getting to play Michigan or Michigan State.
Yeah.
Or Ohio State or whatever Big Ten, 2 or 3 Big Ten schools we play. But I also am a consumer, and I get nationwide. I don't want to watch that. I want to watch the best.
I don't even watch it on TV, Seth, because I don't care. I don't want to know. I don't care if Johnson runs for 220 yards against McNeese State. I care if he runs for 220 yards against Tennessee. And I know it's all part of building your team and getting things together for the stretch run and going into the postseason. I see how that is. I get it. You sometimes have to have games like this, maybe once. And when we go to 9 games, give me one of those subsidy games, and you can give me the better product for the rest of the season. That's what we deserve if we're shelling out this kind of money. As you said, TV pays for this. The reason why TV is able to pay for it is because we watch. But I'm not watching that. If Florida's playing McNeese State, I promise you I will probably not watch much of that game. I'll watch maybe 10 minutes of it because to me it's an exercise or a scrimmage that I have better things to do to watch. Doesn't mean I don't like the Gators. Doesn't mean I'm not a Gator fan. Doesn't mean I'm not following them. Doesn't mean I don't want to see how well they do. What it means is that I need something to give me what I'm looking for on Saturday afternoon. So that's what's going to happen with 9 games, Seth. We're going to see that. But and the playoff, right? The 16-team playoff, that's going to make things much more interesting as well. So we can get rid of these conversations we have every single year about who's in and who's out of the top 4. I mean, I had that experience. That was fun. Let's move on to something else.
Yeah, it'll be more concrete. And look, you'll have teams that are in the SEC that are 9-3 going up against or 8-4 going up against teams from other conferences that are like a 10-2 Wake Forest or an 8-4 LSU, and that'll be a fun debate because of the strength of schedule and the record that goes into it. JC, Seth Harp on Sports, in for Podup with Matthews in the morning on this Monday, brought to you in part by Peachland Dentistry, a Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and the surrounding areas. Visit them at peachlanddental.com. Join JC and the QB every Friday for the Peachland Dentistry, JC, and the QB weekend picks.
Seth, do you know, I just want to, by the way, do you see any of these hockey playoff games? My God.
I love it.
It's so good. It's so good. And I mean,
it's so mad.
I don't know
NBA
what
and hockey. I love it. It's fantastic.
Oh my
The
God.
NBA and the NHL postseason are fantastic. If you're not watching it, you're missing out.
Oh, Saturday, for instance, 2 game-tying goals in the final minute. 3 games went into overtime, almost 4. 1 went into double overtime. What a day in playoff hockey! I mean, the intensity is great. I mean, and you know, the basketball, Sacramento and Golden State yesterday. Sacramento 1-point losers in game 4. They had a chance at the end and took a 30-foot jump shot with the 10 seconds left. Like they didn't design the play that I was hoping they'd get because they were only down 1. They could have drove and tried to get a foul call or something. But at any rate, it's 2-2 now between those two, and home court's holding serve. So we'll see how that ends up. I'm rooting for Sacramento.
It's one of these things too, where it's competition, and for the longest time, the knock in both hockey, and more so in the NBA than hockey, was that it's all store bought. These guys, it's all bought. The Red Wings are buying the cup, or the Penguins are buying the cup. This year, you have the Bruins, who are elite, but you look at that team and how they got there, and you know, it's not a team that's got 2 or 3 Hall of Famers on it. The Avs win it last year. Now they're bouncing back a little bit. You have what's going on with the Leafs and the Lightning, where you have with the GM fight with the fans, and it's great. And then the NBA. Everybody, I got to quote using the term everybody. The knock on the NBA is, these power teams are just getting together, and it's written into this. Everything's written off. Everything is already pre-manifested, with the exception of the Celtics. I look around, everybody's beatable. And I think with Giannis's back, it's a little bit different. But if you're missing out on the NBA, and nobody, I hate the NBA. Why? Well, they're a bunch of spoiled prima donnas. Oh, no other sport has that. No. If you're not watching the Stanley Cup playoffs and the NBA playoffs, you're missing out. It's pretty good right now.
I agree. The Stanley Cup, though, to me, it's insane how good it is. Every single year. It never disappoints you. And if you don't like it, that's fine. You don't have to like it. But it is then you don't like competition, because it's incredible how hard it is and how difficult it is to win a cup in that format with the way they play. I mean, Boston's reward, when they finish up with Florida, is to play Toronto or Tampa. That's their reward. I mean, they don't do it they seed 1 through 8. They don't do it that way. They do it through their divisions. So it's going to be hard. But listen, it's why it's so gratifying when they do it. Seth, real quick before I forget. We mentioned the golf team. And we don't talk about this ever, but JC Deacon, first SEC title. And so many people ask me, what's wrong with the Gator golf team? What's wrong with the Gator golf team year in and year out? This was such a big win for that program, just as a program. And you go over there, that University golf course, great greens, wonderful layout. It's one of the old style, good old golf courses we've had in this area. My dad played there for 45 years. No parking, no restaurant, very limited practice facility. It's trash. But look at what this team did. I mean, they've got a garbage dump of a facility over there, and they win the SEC. And anybody who denies that is lying to themselves. It's awful. I went to Clemson. They're not even known for golf, and they've got a palace to practice golf in. But the greens are good at UF. Yes, they are. But I think it's great that this team was able to do what they did. I think they're playing at a disadvantage from day one with what they have to work with over there. But good for them. God bless.
Are you thinking it's time to take out a couple holes of that course and turn it into a football stadium, as the rumor that's the talk is, and then expand the golf course elsewhere?
Well, we heard that there was going to be an expansion of a golf course potentially in Southwest Gainesville, not very far from where I live right now, but things have fallen through. Nothing's happened. No ground's been broken. I don't know what the plans are. Everything's such a big damn secret. I don't know why it has to be that way. I don't know how you recruit players to go play at that place over there, Bostic. It's just like I said, it's stuck in the 70s. But this club over here sometimes is stuck in the 90s. I don't know what it is about Alachua County. Nobody wants to build anything new except another restaurant or another another apartment complex or something like that. But what about our facilities for sporting events, sports teams? So God bless JC and the Gator golf team for putting up with what they put up with here, getting the players good enough to now tie LSU for second most SEC team titles with 16 in program history. First time in 12 years. That's all I got to say about that. I'm done with it now. Hope I pissed off enough people over there. I don't care. It is what it is. We all know that place is stuck in the 80s, and they need better stuff for their players and their coaches.
I was looking at it this way. When it comes to opinions or criticism, if I say you've got something on your face and you get mad at me because you have something on your face, then that's a you problem, buddy, because I'm just trying to. All right. JC, Seth Harp with you here on this Monday, brought to you in part by Celebration Point. It's where Gators go to celebrate. Also, stores and brands like Nike, International Diamond Center, Dave & Buster's, Bass Pro Shop, Regal Cinema, Prime and Pearl, and the HBC's restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. We will see you at Celebration Point, where Gators come to celebrate. All right, got a couple more things we're going to get into here. Coming up next, 2 Gators, 2 starters enter the transfer portal in football over the course of the next 72 hours. And also Pete Alonso on pace. On pace.
Yeah.
To what? To tie Barry Bonds' home run record. JC and I'll dive into that next. Okay. For Shane, on this Monday, you're listening to Podup with Matthews in the morning.
We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peaceland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise.
Campus USA Credit Union.
QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, and watch. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wibby, Realtor, Caldwell Banker, MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Aver and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Q Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Hi, this is Steve Spurrier, former head of the Gators. Business is booming at our restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. So we're looking to hire 3 top quality front of the house managers and assistant managers. Restaurant talent acquisition is like building a championship football dynasty, and I'm recruiting great people to join our newest team. Thanks to the overwhelming support of people here in Gainesville, the Gator Nation, and fans of all the teams, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill is one of the busiest restaurants in the state. And with our weekend brunch buffet and our takeout options coming soon, we're looking to add a few new restaurant leaders. Everyone knows a coach sometimes is about as good as all of his talent, his players, and his assistant coaches. And if you have a restaurant management experience and are looking to work in a fast-paced, fun environment, then go to www.spurriers.com and apply today. Thank you, and go Gators.
Seth Harp from Harp on Sports. JC with you here on this Monday, in for Shane Matthews, the QB, traveling back from the Lone Star State as we are pinch hitting. Like I said, he's the Joe Montana of this program. I'll be Steve Young. JC's Jerry Rice, or vice versa, whatever you want to do. I thought it was pretty clever, so I'm going with it here on this Monday. Both of us joining you courtesy of the Titan MRI Hotline. Got a question for us via Facebook? Feel free, fire away. A Facebook Live, courtesy of Meldon Law, the only official legal law firm partner of the Florida Gators. So if you got a question for us, feel free via Facebook Live. And we'll do our best to get to them pertaining to the content and what it has to do with what we're talking about. I just dropped my sheet, but there she is. You know, baseball, we started off with that, talked about softball. Both of those series brought to you by Hoover, the ultimate sweepers, ultimate vacuums. Is rough weekend for baseball and softball. Golf with a big win. 2 things that happened sneakily over the weekend, not a word, but Xavier Henderson entering the transfer portal. 38 catches, 410 yards, 2 touchdowns from a year ago. Led the team in receptions. Gone. Also, Ryland Jr., defensively, he's entering the portal as well. Okay, you have a guy that played significant time. I think Ryland started 5 games last year, but played in all of them. Xavier Henderson was the 2nd leading receiver in terms of touchdowns, but led the team in catches. And you know, this is life in the portal now, right?
Yeah.
So Colorado have a massive spring game, and their number 1 threat at receiver has like 150 yards catching in the spring game, and then he enters the portal. So this is life. This is the way it's going to be. But
it's terrible
things. I had somebody tweet me and said, "Oh, this is not a big deal, Seth. This Gator team is starving for depth. The reason Georgia wins championships, the reason Alabama is contending, the reason Ohio State is always contending is because they've got 4- and 5-star guys coming off the bench. So in the 4th quarter, when you can go blow to blow, but in the 4th quarter, you're out of gas where they're just bringing in depth. Anything that hurts Gator depth is a bad thing. These guys may not have been All-Americans, but any way that you look at it, JC, this hurts. It's a gash that requires stitches. This is not just a paper cut.
You know, one thing also I'd like to see somebody say something about is the tampering issues we have in this portal. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's bad. It's wrong. That's got to be fixed somehow. I don't know if the NCAA really is going to do anything, or if the presidents of these schools are not going to get together and try to control this in some fashion, because it is out of control to me. But the tampering has got to come. You've got to do something about that. That has got to be addressed. You don't just have a guy transfer overnight after he does something like he did without somebody having already talked to him weeks ago. And it gives me a sour taste. The tampering's a big issue for me.
Well, like I said, there's a way around it. They become employees, and they sign 2-year contracts upon it. It's a 2-year contract. Now, what's bad about that is it's tough for you as a school to get rid of a guy, but vice versa. There's a way to do this, but what it does is it empowers them. It makes athletes have more of a say. But
how do coaches deal with this, though, Seth? I mean, coaches.
It's not sustainable. Long term, it's not sustainable.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's gotten out of hand. It's gotten way out of hand.
Yeah. Cliff writes in, go to the portal, get some replacements, and move on.
Now the NCAA, Seth, here's another thing. The NCAA now has given players the ability to have as many visits as they want. It's not just 5 or 6 anymore. They can go visit 30 schools in 30 days if they want to. That wasn't allowed before. It is now.
Well, and this is one of these things where, and they deserve a lot of the criticism that they get, but the NCAA was criticized, and look, they screwed up some investigations. Miami, North Carolina. I thought their investigation, what they did to Penn State, was perfect, but even they got drug into court, and that got reduced. USC is the only one with Reggie Bush. USC ended up getting punished more with Reggie Bush, his mom getting a house, than Penn State for running a pedophile ring. Louisville had a whorehouse for their basketball players. So I look at all this, and everybody just kept ragging on the NCAA, The minute the Supreme Court case was lost, the NCAA kind of looked around and said, you know what? All you guys do is bitch and moan. Good luck. You figure it out.
Yeah. Seth, what do you think about this? You're right. I agree. What do you think about this rule change with the clock on first downs?
Love it.
You do?
You know what? Look, man, you're going right next to my next thing.
Okay.
No, but it's good. Here, look, I don't think
it's only going to cut out about 7 plays a game, 7 or 8 plays a game.
Yeah, and it's going to save, what did they say, in the neighborhood of 12 to 14 minutes it could save when it's all said and done. It could save as much as that at 40 seconds. I don't know. Here's the thing. I do know this, that if the game just starts, you kick it through the end zone, touchback, and you come out and you throw a 12-yard pass, the clock doesn't need to stop, JC, with 14:54 to go in the first quarter to move the change. As long as you get your referee, and in the NFL, how they do this is, okay, first down. Referee goes up and spots the ball. The umpire, head judge, line judge, lines up the ball. They spot it. The chains then are set up as the play's going on. If you get a first down, you pin it, and you start over again. So it's one of these things that, look, college games, talk about how long baseball games are. College football games are 40 minutes longer than they were 20 years ago. 40 minutes.
Yeah. Well, remember those TV timeouts too, bro. I mean, that's you want to talk about sucking energy out of a stadium. You watch a game on CBS. Thankfully, we got one last year of that. But I think it's appalling. There's just way too much time. And, the clock will stop inside of 2 minutes on first down. So that still allows for a team that's down 5 to drive 80 yards without any timeouts if they can at under 2 minutes to go by getting first down. So that component of the game won't change. I'm starting to warm up to the idea of the clock running, though, because you're right. It doesn't
affect. It's not going to affect. It's not going to affect play on the field. Now, look, I would get it. What it's going to do, it's going to make it tougher if you're down multiple scores in the fourth quarter to come back. That's what it's going to do, because you're not going to get automatic clock stoppages. I don't know that if you need to insert a 2-minute warning, you're kind of working against the grain when it comes to that. There are certain things that college does better than the NFL. There's certain things that they do worse. There's something else, JC, I'd like to see done. Not every play needs to be under review. Things are going to make mistakes. I wish the college game would adopt the NFL approach with that. Where, look, you get your 3 challenges. However you get 2, then you get your 3rd. So trying to get 4 games into 4 windows throughout the course of the day is the goal with this.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to do noon, 3:30, 7, 10 West Coast, trying to get all this in. And if you're going to speed up the game in a minuscule fashion, especially with how fast the game is now. JC, it was one thing 20, 30 years ago when you had Ron Dane and you had feature backs, even like Fred Taylor, where the goal, you ran the ball in first, ran the ball in second, throw the ball in third. Now, spread, fast.
Yeah, right.
We can get rid of this stopping the clock. And what did you say? It's the whole first quarter. The entire
Well, it's inside of 2 minutes of each half.
each half.
They will.
I wish it was 4, but fine. 2's fine.
Yeah, inside of 2 minutes. And then, what I hope they don't do, though, is if the player runs out of bounds, just start the clock up immediately. I kind of want to keep some of that specific to college, but the first down thing doesn't bother me. I thought about it, and I thought, it's okay. It's all right. I mean, what the hell? It's a long day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah.
Again, where it's going to hurt is if you're down multiple scores.
Then you're in trouble.
On the fourth, there's where it's going to hurt.
Well, don't go down 4 touchdowns. How about that?
And I got another one for you. Ready? This is Uncle Seth's plan. If you save all of your timeouts in the first half, you can carry 1 over to the second half. If you want to speed this thing up, okay, and now it's like, well, that'll be an extra timeout at the end of the game. Yes, but it'll make the end of the game more exciting and force the majority of the game to be sped up. So I just an idea. That's if you keep all 3 of them in the first half.
That's a good. I never would have thought of that. Yeah,
just something to spice it up a little bit.
I mean, sure. I see. There's so much change going on.
Yeah.
They do seem to have forgotten about the game itself in a way, and so this kind of adds a little something to the game itself. I mean, because we talk about so many issues off the field. I'd rather just talk about things that are going on the field. 16-game playoff, great. 9-team schedule, SEC conference schedule, fantastic. You got 16 teams now. So yeah, I think, get them to play each other more consistently. I mean, when was the last time Mississippi State was over here? When did Georgia ever go to Texas A&M?
Yeah.
These things just didn't happen under the old format. That's not a true conference, if you ask me. That's not right. It's imbalanced. You've got Alabama playing Texas A&M every year. Georgia plays Vanderbilt every year.
No, if this new schedule is the 3 permanent and the 6 rotators, that way if you go to a school for all 4 years, you will play 4 teams home and away 4 times, and you'll pay the other team at least at their place once and at least at your place.
Yes, that has to happen.
It's great.
That has to happen.
That's
I agree with that.
JC, Seth Harp with you here on this Monday. Podup with Matthews in the morning. Brought to you in part by Ruse Orgra State Farm Insurance, dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go in the right direction with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ograinsurance.com. Give them a call, 352-240-1779, 352-240-1779. I get this. I saw a mock draft. JC, I think it's fun because they're debatable. It's cool. But I saw one today that said only 2 quarterbacks in the first round.
Oh,
done.
Wow.
That's it. That's not going to happen. There's no way. There's going to be 4 go in the top 10. People are trying to get edgy now with these things. So, yeah, it's time. The draft.
Who you got? Now I know we have different teams taking Anthony. Who did you say you think's going to take him?
The best thing for Anthony Richardson is Tennessee or Baltimore, because John Harbaugh, strong foundation. They're not a panicky organization. They're successful over time. He's been the head coach there, 13 years now? 14 years now, at least. So a stable place where, depending on what's going on with Lamar, they'll handle that right. They just do. It's a good organization. The other place is Tennessee, Mike Vrabel. They're rebuilding. It's a calm organization, too, when it comes to things. And Ryan Tannehill's not the future. Neither is Malik Willis. So they got to figure it out. So that's where I want him to go. Where if he goes to Seattle, that's fine, too. Pete Carroll's a good coach. There's some stability out there. Not Indianapolis. I grew up there. That organization, people forget. Anybody that's under the age of 30, you know this. That was the worst organization in football for a decade. And, they lucked into Peyton Manning. And then Peyton Manning gets hurt, and they just happened to luck into Andrew Luck. And for 25 years, 20 years, they have these elite quarterbacks that would win
Super Bowl. Yeah.
And Bill Polian was a great GM. Come on, Seth, wasn't we had the drafting of Marvin Harrison, Edgerrin James, T.Y. Hilton, Reggie Wayne, what they did at Dwight Freeney. But since Polian's been gone, it's a bad organization. Yeah. They're going to want him to start. Indianapolis will ruin Anthony Richardson. So, soapbox, there we go. But
spoke like a true Indiana frustrated fan.
I'm a Chiefs guy. I just
yes, you are a Chiefs guy.
All my friends are Colts fans, so I get it.
Yes. Well, I listen. I said Seattle. How do I know? Nobody knows. And I agree with both your guesses there. It could easily be. Yeah, no doubt about the organizations. They are stable. As is Seattle, though. And I think you give him a year behind Geno Smith to kind of learn some things, because Geno's been around, right? And Geno just signed a big contract, so he's going to be their guy. But it's a short-term deal, and Anthony is long-term. So maybe that would help Anthony as he adjusts to a much faster game that requires you to pass the ball accurately. And that wasn't, in my mind, one of his strengths. Physically, one of the most gifted people on earth. Yeah. But it's it takes so much more than that, I think.
It's the Patrick Mahomes approach. The Chiefs drafted him. They gave up 2 first-round picks to move up to get him. And then what did they do? They parked him behind Alex Smith an entire year. Not all the time. There's some guys that need to play right away. I get it. Yeah. Whoever the Panthers are drafting, whether it's C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young, that guy's going to start right away. I get it. Mm-hmm. But with Anthony Richardson, where he is, the best thing for Anthony is to sit behind a veteran for a year,
I think so.
Learn how to be a pro, and then here you go.
I think so.
You don't want a Kyle Trask situation where you're sitting for multiple years.
Man.
Aaron Rodgers sat for 3 and it fueled him and pissed him off, and he had a great career because of it. Yeah. So I just look at what's best for him, and
yeah, it's a new world, man.
Just to chill out for a while, because he's got impeccable skill set. He's got maybe the best skill set that we've seen at that position in terms of height, speed, agility, all of those things. But execution is one of the big ones, right? You can be fantastic, but if you can't execute, so we'll see what happens with that. I know you got to get running here really quick.
Yeah.
A couple of things, as we mentioned, softball, baseball, all of this. Pete Alonso, really quick, 10 home runs, on pace for 72 home runs.
Oh, I know it. I mean, I'm a big fan. He doesn't get the attention that you would think a guy in New York gets.
Yeah.
I mean, he plays for the Mets. If he played for the Yankees, he'd be as big as Aaron Judge, right? Yeah. So, but he plays for the stinking Mets, and that surprises me. They're second in the NL East. They're 14-9. They lost yesterday to the Giants, but he has been the story. He's been the story for that team, and hopefully he can keep it up, man. Big fan of him, big fan of his, and I think if he can keep it up, it'd be tremendous to have him on HR watch, throughout the summer, and see how he does.
He just gets lost in the shuffle there. It's too bad.
He does.
If he were doing this like in St. Louis,
right, or New York, the other New York team, yeah, I mean, he'd be all over the news.
Atlanta, so
he's good. He's something. Yeah,
you need to get running.
Yeah, I'm gonna skate, but I appreciate you. Thanks for coming on and helping us and doing what you do, and I'll be checking in with you soon.
It'll be it's going to be a fun week, and thanks for having me over the course of the last few weeks.
Absolutely.
Shane had to bow out early. He wasn't able to come on today, but he'll be back in full force tomorrow. So I've enjoyed doing this with you guys, and
buddy,
doing with you when we got some windows.
Absolutely.
Here over the course of the next few months.
All right, Seth. Thank you so much, my man.
So JC, exit stage right now. I'm all by myself here for the final 5 minutes. No, we're good to of this Monday. Again, Podup with Matthews in the morning, brought to you in part by QC Kinetics, as my papers are all over the place. So excited about something I'm about ready to mention. If you got shoulder pain, hip pain, knees, back, no surgery. Check out QC Kinetics first. Once you go to the scalpel, it becomes a mess. Long-lasting relief, no surgery, drugs, or downtime. Check out QC Kinetics today. Get your consultation. Locations in Ocala and Gainesville. 352-400-4500. That's 352-400-4550. That's QC Kinetics. I'll read it one more time because I butchered it. 352-400-4550. Okay. Just recapping, going back and looking at some things that we talked about, and we wrap up this edition of Podup with Matthews. The big thing that JC and I hammered out in early stages of the show was what happened with baseball getting swept. And it's pretty obvious. And sports end up being mathematics. It does. if you convert your first downs, you get to keep the ball 10 yards. Now you need athletes to do these things, but it's very mathematical. There's formulations, there's equations, and baseball is one of these things that is built on numbers. It is. Now, Moneyball showed us this. The problem with Moneyball is you eventually have to keep some of those guys around, build those guys up, develop them, they go. I look at it this way. Baseball, the tale of this weekend was pretty simple for baseball. And it was this. Gators pitchers walked 24 Gamecocks. I'll say that again. 25 innings. Gators pitching walked 24 South Carolina hitters. Of those 24, 12 scored. Gators scored 10 runs all weekend. So when my pitching staff walks 24 of you guys and 12 of you score, and I only score 10 all weekend combined, going to get swept. And that's what happened. That's what happened. So I got swept. And I went through and some other numbers too. Look, the Gators are able to draw 10 walks, South Carolina 24. Starting pitching. South Carolina allowed 10 runs in 3 games. South Carolina allowed 10 runs in 3 games. So Florida goes out and scores 3 runs a game, and Gators pitching staff walks 24 guys. Can't blame that on Neely. You can't. Well, if he didn't get kicked out, it wouldn't have mattered this weekend. It wouldn't. Sproat had the best night of any starter. 5 2/3 gave up 4 earned runs. Then the bullpen got lit up. Waldrop, 5 earned runs over 6 innings. Got away from him at the end. Keggs gives up 4 earned runs over 3 innings. So what happened? You had 3 starters. Their ERAs were right around 5. Now they're 5-1, 5-1. Okay. Well, the starting pitchers combined like 14-3 going into this weekend. This 3-game set with South Carolina, they were like 14-3. What happened? Got torched. When you walk 12 guys, your starters, what do starters walk 12? 14. Starters walk 14 of the 24. Florida's out slugging. The Gators have been out slugging teams all year long. And that's fine. You can get away with that. But eventually in this conference, you're going to run into a team that does that just as good as you, and they find out they're pitching. And that's exactly what happened. So they got swept. So what's at stake now? 31-10, 11-7 overall. What's at stake now? Well, look, you put yourself in a position where the SEC East is probably over, not completely, probably over. You go out, you sweep Missouri, then you're back at 14-7. Maybe South Carolina can lose 2 or 3. Vandy find a weekend where they could lose 2 or 3, and you put yourself in a position where, but still, this is where this team is now. In order to have a shot to win the East, they're going to have to win 5 of their next SEC games. Winning 5 of your next 6 SEC games get you to what? 16-8? And even then, you're still going to be 3 games out at best. And then you're going to have to sweep Vandy. When you are in April, and if you want to win your division, you're talking about, well, we have to sweep 2 series down the stretch. Tough conference is why it's tough to win. And I know that's not the ultimate goal. But still, it was a rough weekend. It was a rough weekend. And you get to return home and try to figure some things out. But Mizzou and A&M the next 2 weekends, 5-1 in those 6 games, it's not too much of a stretch. But again, starting pitching put themselves in a rough position, and they couldn't get out of it. Also, softball losing 9-1 to Tennessee, blowing that 6-run lead. Where you are with softball, 8-9 in the conference. What's at stake tonight? Here's what's at stake for softball tonight. 500 in the conference. If softball loses tonight, it's going to be tough for them to finish above 500, because if they lose tonight, they'll be 8-10 in the conference. And if they win their next 2 series and go 4-2, that still gets you to 12-12. You don't get above 500. Well, that's what's at stake in the SEC tonight for Florida. With the loss, I don't see any way they finish with a winning record in the SEC. And why is that important? They're on the cusp of hosting a regional. I'm trying to rack my brain the last time Florida softball didn't host a regional. once in the last decade that's happened. So that's where things are with a loss tonight. Going to struggle to finish 500 in the conference. It's may not host a regional. And look, there's not just because they win. If they win tonight, doesn't mean they're going to get to host a regional. But finishing above 500 in the conference is kind of important when it comes to that. There we are. Podup with Matthews in the morning as we get through everything here on this Monday. Brought to you in part by, I think we got pretty much everything. Comfort Temp. Shame on me. Comfort's their business. Peace of mind is the promise. Summer on the way. When's the last time your AC was tuned up? Check it out now before that summer heat wave goes into overdrive. Give Comfort Temp a call. 352-376-2366. That's 352-376-2366. Again, Shano out today. He'll be back tomorrow. I think it is tomorrow, Shane and Buddy, to give you a little precursor of what's going on with that. Of course, when it comes to the station that I run, ESPN Gainesville, 98.1 FM, 850 AM WRUF. We got softball tonight, got baseball tomorrow. It's just softball Wednesday. We bounce back around to softball on Wednesday. Then, of course, the draft on Thursday, and baseball and softball all weekend long, bouncing back and forth. It's one of those weeks where I think we got something like 9 games on, 10 games on in 7 days. So a lot.